As much as you prepare and as much as you read, nothing prepares you for that moment that you hold your baby in your arms and you realize that this tiny thing is dependent on you for a very long time.
We're going to push you through to the recovery room now, and then we'll let your baby there, all right?
You don't know what to expect, what you're going to feel, how your breasts are going to feel. Definitely it is. I found it was quite a nerve-wracking experience.
I think many mothers don't expect to struggle with breastfeeding, and I think it comes as a huge shock to them when they do come to the hospital, the baby has been born and suddenly doesn't know how to latch.
I mean, for us to be able to latch that baby for the first time, or to be involved with the breastfeeding with the mother, that experience that she's got, to share that with them, but also to see the mom's reaction to that first contact that she's got with her baby.
I thought she'd take a while to latch on, because I haven't done this before, but it went pretty well.
At the moment, I'm 25 weeks pregnant. I am inundated with information, but I have decided that I want to breastfeed. And if there aren't any complications, that's definitely the route that I want to take, just because it's the healthier route for my kid.
Well, I think breastfeeding is important. For me especially, I enjoy nutrition and learning about nutrition. And I think for a baby, you've always heard, breast is best. And I think from the point of view of being with your baby, spending time breastfeeding your child, knowing you're giving him or her the best nutrition possible.
The World Health Organization recommends that a mom breastfeed for at least 6 months of the baby's life and not introduce any supplements or additional food to the baby's diet, as that really gives the baby the best head start.
The miracle is that a baby can live exclusively off its mother's body for another 6 months after birth without needing anything but breast milk.
One of the best things about breastfeeding is actually that bond that you get with your baby. The baby tells you what he needs in his next feed, and the hormones just work that way. Your baby is working your body to provide his needs.
Obviously, I think for most moms, they know that there's a lot of well-known factors why we want to breastfeed. You know that there's a cost involved if you choose otherwise. There's a convenience factor. It's not something that you need to go and sterilize bottles first. Also, then we know that breastfeeding's got a real benefit for preventing breast cancer.
Breastfeeding is an amazing thing. It's a good time to bond with your baby, and you just know that you're giving your baby a good start in life.
The first milk that you're going to produce as a mother is colostrum. It is very high in nutrients and also got a lot of antibodies.
The first couple of days it's only the colostrum, and it's only 5 milliliters that they really need. That's a full feed.
Oh, is it?
It's highly nutritious and it's really excellent for your baby.
Colostrum is an amazing substance. Your baby needs very little. It's almost like condensed milk. It's very dense in calories and it's rich in protein to stabilize your baby's blood sugars so that the baby can go for long periods without being fed. On the first day of life, your baby only needs 5 ml of colostrum per feed to actually sustain that baby for another 2 or 3 hours before he has to feed again. Colostrum is also a brilliant laxative, and if your baby drinks that in the first couple of days, it helps them to pass the sticky stools, the meconium, which if you don't pass that soon enough, bilirubin gets reabsorbed out of the stools and your baby is more likely to develop jaundice in the next coming days.
The foremilk, so the milk, the first couple of minutes of the baby suckling on the nipple, the foremilk is thirst quenching, the hind milk is nourishing. So the baby needs to suck for a good 20 minutes or however long he wants to get foremilk to quench his thirst and hind milk to nourish him. If he gets enough hind milk, he will probably sleep for a little bit longer between feeds.
Then it also holds benefits for the mother in terms of prevention of breast cancer later in life, even maybe some cervical cancers. For the baby, it helps to protect against heart disease, diabetes mellitus, protects against allergies, eczema and asthma.
Breast milk is designed for babies. It is rich enough. It differs from feed to feed. The calorie content differs, but it is what your baby needs. It's God's made it that way.
Did you know that breastfeeding your baby actually helps to line up the baby's teeth? In other words, they might need less orthodontic treatment later in life because all babies are born with a bit of an overbite to facilitate breastfeeding. You know, they've got this little receding chin. And when they breastfeed, they push that chin right into the breast and they develop the lower jaw muscle by using the jaw to massage the breast. And like every other muscle, when you exercise it enough, it will actually develop the jaw and it brings the lower jaw forward so that the teeth lines up eventually.
There's 3 positions, the cross one, the Madonna one, the one where you keep the baby under your arm like a football, and then for the Caesar mums there's lying down.
Breastfeeding her in the Madonna position, as they call it, where the baby will lie just on its side, facing me. A normal, with the head, the shoulders and the hip are all in line.
What it means is that if your baby lies on her back and she drinks like that, she's going to pull off onto the nipple. And I want her to be turned towards you.
So it's
right?
tummy to tummy.
Tummy to tummy.
Right.
So that's the first thing, get the positioning right.
The basic principle still applies here to this one as well, with the body in a straight position. The head mustn't be turned on the shoulders, the ear, the shoulders and the hip all in a straight line.
Okay.
Now it's just her tummy is towards your side basically,
Okay.
but it's still the same principle. And it's very important to ensure that she's on the right level. Otherwise she'll pull on your nipple and it will really damage your nipple.
Right.
So use as many pillows as you need. Those breastfeeding pillows also work quite well.
When you hold your baby, you want the ear, the shoulder and the hip to be in a straight line.
Okay.
That applies again to what we said earlier about being turned towards you. So if she was lying on her back with her head turned towards you, you won't have that line in the positioning. So that's a very, whether you hold her across the tummy or whether you hold her under the arm, you always want the ear, the shoulder and the hip to be in line and the baby turned towards you. The way she's positioned, can you see how deep her chin is pushing into your breast?
Yes.
Okay, that's very important because they massage the breast with the bottom jaw to get the milk out. And then she keeps her nose open by herself. If you find that you have to keep your baby's nose open like that, it means she's too high up on the breast.
The key things for me about breastfeeding is to be comfortable. You will be educated how to do it, but you need to find what works for you.
Now, there are 2 important aspects of the correct latch. The first important aspect is the baby's mouth must be open wide, really wide. And the second aspect of a latch is that it must be deep. The nipple must be deep in the baby's mouth.
Because it's quite important that she doesn't just grab the nipple, because then she can't, there's no milk in the nipple. She needs to get her mouth on the areola to get the milk out. So you hold the breast, it's perfect the way you've got it. It's called the C cup. So your thumb slightly to the top of the nipple, there, so that you can lift it up slightly. Because the way you've got it now, can you see your nipple points to her nose? All right, that's what we need to see. Now you use the bottom of your areola to swipe her lip open to try and elicit that rooting reflex. So that bottom lip is turned right back. You want to see the inside of her bottom lip. In other words, like that. They call it, the lips must be flanged. Or the Kellogg's K. You would have heard of somebody talking about the Kellogg's K when you're breastfeeding. It means that bottom lip should sit here. You see how nicely that jaw is moving? I like your position. Can you see how she's turned towards you, tummy to tummy? You see the straight line between the ear, the shoulder and the hip, which shows us that's the right position. It's important your baby shouldn't be lying on her back and feeding with her head turned to the side. So the whole body be turned towards you, because that way she gets to go deep enough into the breast. Because when she breastfeeds, she uses her bottom jaw to massage the breast from the bottom up. So she needs to get that bottom jaw right underneath the milk ducts to get the milk out.
The babies have different cries for different needs. If a baby is uncomfortable because it's got a wet nappy, it will have a different cry to if it's hungry and needing some food. One is guided by the time lapse between a feed sometimes, but it's not always the same time lapse. So when you feel that your baby's unhappy, you need to check the baby's nappy to see if the baby's got a clean nappy, change it if it hasn't. Wind the baby to make sure that the baby's not uncomfortable because he's got a wind sitting in his tummy. And if all else fails, feed the baby. Even if it's an hour after the baby's had a feed, you don't know how much the baby's had, and he will tell you when he's hungry.
Here you go, you see the hand starting to come to the mouth. Those are the first cues. You see the tongue starts coming out. Oh, there's the open mouth. Those are the beginning of the rooting signs. So those are your first signs. If she starts doing that, that's the first cues that she's ready to start eating.
In the old days, it was all about you feed for 5 minutes on this side and 5 minutes on that side, and a lot of old wives' tales about what you can't eat and what you can eat and how long you have to feed and how you have to feed, and this baby's not getting enough food because he's crying all the time. And all of that is basically pressure from family. So lots of questions from mothers are about that. My mother says I have to feed for 20 minutes each time. But babies are individuals and mothers are individuals, and that's why the best thing is still what works for you and your baby.
Babies are very different. Some babies are grazers, others are guzzlers. The grazers are the babies who feed for long periods of time, and they often go long periods between feeds. Those would be the 1% of breastfed babies who go 4 hours between feeds, 24/7. Then you get the guzzlers. They're the ones who eat quickly. They eat 5 to 7 minutes, then they pass out. You can't wake them up, but those babies often want to feed within the next hour and a half to 2 hours again. And you cannot compare babies because we're all different. We all have different feeding patterns. Which brings me to how will you know that your baby is getting enough milk, because that is probably one of the biggest problems that mothers have when they're breastfeeding, is the insecurity about how do I know my baby is getting enough milk. In the beginning we expect probably about 3 wet nappies a day and 1 or 2 soiled nappies, but by the time you go home, so once your milk has come in, your baby needs to have at least 6 to 8 wet nappies a day and about 3 yellow stools, and those stools should be about tablespoon size. If it's just little marks in the nappy, that doesn't count. It must be substantial tablespoon size yellow stools, and those stools have to go yellow. If the stools don't go yellow by day 5, 6, 7, or she's not having 3 stools a day, she's maybe not getting enough milk.
Another thing that the patients always say, is it necessary for the baby to have the second breast? If it's had a nice long time on the one breast, is it necessary to take the baby off? I say, no, don't take the baby off. The baby will spit the nipple out. Then you need to wind the baby and love it a bit. You can offer the second breast as dessert. So your baby gets its main nourishment for the first part of the feed. It's most vigorous. It gets most of its feed then. The second side is the dessert. Baby can have dessert if he wants to. If he doesn't want to, it's not necessary. But you must remember when breastfeeding that you need to start the feed on the side that you finished on, or the baby didn't take a feed from in the previous feed, because otherwise you're going to overstimulate one breast and you're going to be a bit lopsided, and that's never acceptable for anybody.
Obviously, there's only one way that you know your baby's had enough. It's growing, it's picking up weight, it's doing well. Then your baby's had enough.
A baby will know when to stop, and you can never overfeed a breastfed baby.
Now the best way to wean your baby is to let her sit up like this. Put her on your lap for me, please. Sweetie pie. Yes, I want her to sit up on your lap like that. Now you put your fingers on her jaw, your thumb and your forefinger. The palm of your hand presses into her tummy. Your fingers lift up the head slightly, because what you're trying to achieve is a straight line between the mouth and the stomach, because air travels up no matter what you do. So if you can create that straight line, you apply a bit of pressure with your one hand, let it sit slightly over your hand, and this hand rubs up firmly up the back. Okay, if you do that for 2 or 3 minutes and nothing comes out, it means your baby doesn't have a wind now. Okay, she had a nice wind now. It's important that you keep the head up, because air travels up. If you keep the baby in a slightly upright position, that air comes out almost without you having to do anything. I'm holding her jaws with my fingers and I'm not strangling her, but I'm keeping a straight line between her mouth and her stomach. The palm of my hand applies a little bit of pressure to her tummy there, and at the back you can just gently rub in an upward position. And if you get 1 or 2 winds out within the first minute or two, that's perfect. If you get nothing out, it's also fine.
With him, it was a bit more challenging because he was sleeping the first day all the time, and I thought, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong.
If your baby is a little bit sleepy when it does come to you, say your baby has been separated after the birth and it now comes to you and it's a little bit sleepy, the best thing you can do is take the clothes off, put the baby back in skin-to-skin contact with you. Because skin-to-skin contact between the mother and baby will bring out that baby's natural breastfeeding instincts. It will help her to remember how to breastfeed. Move her onto your chest and let her just lie there, because it is nice to just hold your baby close to you and let her sleep there. But she also needs to be reminded from time to time that she can go to sleep by herself. What I want you to do is, once she's now finished feeding, when you see that she loses interest, you take her off, you wind her one more time, then you wrap her up nice and tightly, you swaddle her, and then you can hold her and see if you can't get her to settle. If she keeps on rooting, you know, that sort of cue that she wants to feed, sometimes instead of giving a pacifier, because once again it's an artificial teat that we don't want to introduce too